We want to get to Trey Yingst because those pictures that we've had on the screen there, while Ayal's been talking, has been the night sky lighting up over Gaza. Trey, what's happening at this hour?
Yeah, hey, Sandra. Israeli forces continue to operate inside Gaza at this hour. They use these flares that you see live on the side of the screen to illuminate areas and mark targets so those forces can either move forward or use their air force to strike the different targets. Really, though, we're following the news of the body of a hostage that was found in a building near the Al-Shifa hospital complex. We're talking about Yehuda Weiss, and she represents one of what we understand to be 240 people that were held inside Gaza following the October 7th massacre. And just to tell you a little bit about this woman who represents so many innocent Israelis who were taken and slaughtered by Hamas on October 7th. She was a woman in her mid-60s. She was undergoing cancer treatment. She had a husband who was also killed by Hamas on October 7th. We know from reporting that she and her husband were hiding in their bomb shelter known as a mamad in Israel, in the small community of Be'eri that sits near to the Gaza border. We've reported from there often in the aftermath of that massacre. And this woman was a woman of peace. She was a woman who worked with kindergarten students and worked in the dining hall of her kibbutz, her small community. And she was taken into Gaza and slaughtered by Hamas. She was unarmed, and this was the result. And unfortunately, her story will not be unique. And we are being sensitive to the information that we know due to the families who are in desperate need of any information about their loved ones that were dragged into Gaza on October 7th. But when you look at her photo, this woman in her mid-60s, and you think about her story and her 5 children who tonight have learned that their mother, in addition to their father, was murdered, it really cuts through this entire story. And the flares and the rockets and the bombs, this is a story about people, and people who are mourning tonight, a country that continues to mourn in the aftermath of this brutal massacre that took place in early October.
So Trey, hey Trey, it's John here. So just to be clear, because some of the initial reporting seemed to point to the idea that the hostage that was found dead was a member of the IDF. That would appear to not be the case. But Hamas also said a couple of days ago that an Israeli military hostage had been killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza. Do we know if that report might be true, or is that potentially Hamas propaganda?
Yeah, so this is a different incident with a 19-year-old soldier. And last week, Hamas released a propaganda video of this young woman speaking in front of a camera. And then at the end of the video, they had photos of her body. And now Hamas claims she was killed in an Israeli airstrike. We have no way to independently verify those claims. There have been widespread Israeli airstrikes against the tunnel network underneath the Gaza Strip. In the initial days of this conflict, Hamas and Islamic Jihad claimed they were holding hostages in that tunnel system. And the difficult part about this story is the Israelis simply don't know where all of the hostages are. They are trying to track down as much information as they can. The Israelis claim, and they've shown us laptops and notebooks they say have information about the hostages they were able to recover from the Al-Shifa Medical Center. We were not able to independently verify those claims either. We were not able to look at the laptops or notebooks. But it really gets to the core of the situation here. There are around 240 people still missing. Some of them are dead, others being held alive by Hamas inside Gaza. We do know there are negotiations at a very high level behind the scenes. The Qataris are involved in these conversations, along with the Egyptians, the Israelis, and the Americans. The Israelis are trying to find diplomatic solutions to get those hostages that are alive out of the Gaza Strip, but they are negotiating with a terror organization. And Hamas is not going to be clean or clear in these negotiations, and that's part of the issue at play here. John, Sandra.
Trey, thank you so much. We will check back in with you again shortly. Thank you.
Trey, thank you.